Hi everyone. Our subject today is about the Crusades. Okay, well, the Crusades are, or were actually, a series of religious wars initiated, supported, and sometimes directed by the Latin Church in the medieval period. The best known of these crusades are those to the Holy Land in the period between 1095 and 1291, between the 11th and the 13th century, that were to capture Jerusalem and its surrounding area from Islamic rule. Other military activities in the Iberian Peninsula against the Moors and in Northern Europe against pagan Slavic tribes also became known as crusades, as well as crusades against heretical Christian sects and against the Byzantine and Ottoman Empire. Most historians consider the sermon preached by Pope Urban II in November 1095 to have been the spark that fueled a wave of military campaigns to gain control of the Holy Land from Muslim control. He encouraged military support for Byzantine against the Seljuk Turks and called for an armed pilgrimage to Jerusalem, promising paradise to crusaders, even gave them certificates of deed, with other varieties of motivations like feudal obligations, opportunities for fame, and economic and political advantages. The use of violence for communal purposes was not alien to early Christians. The evolution of a Christian theology of war was inevitable when Roman citizenship became linked to Christianity and citizens were required to fight against the empire enemy. This was supported by the then development of a doctrine of holy war, and we all better read history so not to remain confused. Violent acts were commonly used for dispute resolution in Western Europe until the movements of peace and truce of God restricted conflict between Christians from the 10th century, and then came Pope Urban II. Hallelujah. The First Crusade, which is the most historically significant to talk about, followed by many other crusades, amongst which the most important is the Third Crusade. Now back to the First Crusade, where nobles and peasants responded in great number and marched across Europe, then supported by the Byzantine emperor at Constantinople. The Knights or Templars, guided by Armenian Christians. Yes. In July 1099, the Crusaders gained control of Jerusalem, and mass slaughter of Muslim men, women, and children in the thousands that the streets turned into rivers of blood. Not forgetting the few hundreds of Jews living in Jerusalem were massacred too. In the words of a contemporary historian, he described as follows: the Christians gave over their whole hearts to the slaughter that the violence at Jerusalem was as typical of medieval warfare that this was a wholly new experience. The weapon of the Crusaders turned into instruments of God's wrath. And weapons mean swords and many others. But which God is this? Anyway, the violence of this crusade had been unprecedented. Second Crusade attempted to take Damascus in Syria. The campaign was a failure because the Muslim forces regrouped, led by Saladin, advanced across Syria and finally retook Jerusalem in October of 1187. Saladin allowed the patriarch of Jerusalem, to leave the city with the church's treasures by saying, with the remark that he made, and why he left, and this is why we see in all over Europe, those treasures are here and there in some countries, because Saladin allowed them, the patriarch, to take them with him or with them. Now, Saladin said about this in the sense that if he didn't allow, that's what he said, if we make excuses to confiscate this wealth, the Franks, they were head of the Crusaders, the Franks today are known for the French. The Franks will accuse us of treachery. Let us not make them accuse people of faith of breaking their oath. This is Islam. Let them go. They will talk about our benevolence. Afterwards, on top of that, Saladin guaranteed access to Jerusalem to the European pilgrims and welcomed Jews back to the city as well. Not forgetting the incident of Richard the Lionheart, how humanely was treated by Saladin. Now the Crusades will remain proof that Islam was not spread by the sword. And what a difference Islam can make. Thank you.